All right, I want you to learn something here. Here's the lesson for today. The lesson is this: just because people vote for something does not make it constitutional or legal. So if you put something on a ballot and people go and vote for it and it passes, doesn't matter. By wide margins, doesn't matter if it's illegal or unconstitutional. Here to explain that, David Coleman, Senior Counsel of the Great Lakes Justice Center. David, good to have you here.
Good morning, Steve. It's always great to start my day off in the no panic zone.
Well, I appreciate that. Listen, this is happening around the country. This is Proposition 2 in Michigan from 2022. But similar propositions have passed in other states, but we're going to focus on this one in Michigan because it's instructive. It's illustrative. Tell us what Prop 2 is and what you're challenging.
Sure. There are actually two ballot initiatives in Michigan, one in 2018 and one in 2022. And that's where all these changes to the election laws came in. And we have ballot stuffing now, and we have people having multiple ballots come to their home, and the extended voting and all those things that have been passed by ballot initiative in the last couple of years. And so we believe that violates Article 1, Section 4 of the federal Constitution, which says very clearly that the time, places, and manner of holding elections for senators and representatives, now we're talking at the federal level, so holding elections for Congress, shall be prescribed in each state by the legislature. Now, that seems pretty clear. That's what the federal Constitution says. And so
it is, but if I may be so bold, hold on, before we go too far here. The state of Alabama was just told by the United States Supreme Court, as was the state of North Carolina, that the way they drew their congressional districts was not going to pass muster. Even though they presented the same argument you just presented. They said, no, you can't do it that way. So it's not an ultimate state legislature gets to do this because they just said no at a conservative Supreme Court. But go ahead and tell us about what you're doing and why it would be different.
Yeah, why it's different in this case, Steve, is that's a different clause of the federal Constitution that they argued that under. It's a similar principle, but it's a different clause. And what we have in our case dealing with time, place, and manner of federal elections for congressmen and women is we have prior case law, where it was a very close vote a number of years ago, 5-4, that upheld a state doing it this way with a ballot initiative. But 4 justices, including Justice Roberts, who wrote a scathing dissent, really quite vociferously dissented in that decision. And now we've had a shift in 2 different justices now on the court. And you only need 4 justices to take the case up and to revisit the issue. And we believe that we have a court now with a majority that will rule our way on it. Now, it's up to the justices, obviously. But Justice Roberts made it real clear that he believed when the federal Constitution said legislature, it meant legislature.
So what happens then? What's the process here? And what's the real issue here? All of these, they're trying to bake in all the games they played during the pandemic. That's really what's happening here. That's what the left wants: mass mail-in ballots. They want people to be able to harvest ballots. They want people to be able to, go to their friend's house, help them fill out the ballot and turn it in for them. There's nothing about that that's secure at all. But what's the process from here?
Well, the process is we filed a federal lawsuit in federal court here in Michigan in the Western District. It has now been served. The Attorney General acknowledged service. The state, we've sued Jocelyn Benson, the Secretary of State, for declaratory ruling on this issue and for an injunction to stop these 2 ballot proposals from continuing to be implemented. And so they now have till the first of the year, early January, to file an answer and a response. I'm sure they're going to file a motion to try to dismiss based on the earlier case we were just talking about. And then it's going to go up. It's a legal issue, and we're going to take it all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, and that's going to be the process. We'll see what happens at the district court level. Then we'll take it to the 6th Circuit, and then, if need be, we'll go to the U.S. Supreme Court.
So what are the longer-term ramifications here? Well, because, look, this is happening all over the country. The Democrats' new accelerated plan to change the world to their liking is doing ballot initiatives, whether it's on voting rights or abortion rights. I wouldn't be surprised, and I've said this for a long time, to see AR-15s on the ballot in various states to have people vote against gun rights because it's something that's on the, the hot sheet for Democrats to get done. But again, just because people to say they're going to vote for it or do vote for it doesn't mean it's constitutional or legal. I mean, that's what we're coming down to, correct?
Right. That's exactly right. Any law that gets passed, whether it's by a ballot initiative, whether it's passed by the legislature, however it's done, an administrative rule can be challenged if there is a clause or section of the Michigan or federal Constitution that it violates. And so that's the challenge that always happens afterwards. Obviously, Steve, most of the time ballot initiatives are fine and there's no problem with having the vote of the people on certain issues, and it doesn't necessarily violate the Constitution. But in this case, on this issue, we believe it does. It's very clear, in our opinion. And we think the switch in justices on the Supreme Court will hopefully go our way. This brings up another issue, Steve, which is, there have been a lot of lawsuits against our Secretary of State, Benson, since in the last couple of years over things she just unilaterally did, not even what was in the ballot initiatives or state statutes that have been passed. For example, she did things like telling all the clerks in the state of Michigan to not review signatures on absentee ballots because they got inundated with thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of votes. They didn't have the, quote, time to follow the law, which requires them to verify every signature on an absentee ballot or a mail-in ballot.
And that's not a valid excuse, is it? That's not a valid excuse of the law.
No.
We don't have time to do what we're required.
Exactly.
It's not optional. It's required, correct?
And so Jocelyn Benson just told all the clerks of the state, ignore it. Act as if those signatures are valid without checking them. She got slapped down in the court and got overruled.
But there's no penalty.
Do that. They won't be able to do it next election.
But there's no
You're
penalty
right,
for it. She broke the law.
Yep.
We know that.
Yep.
But before she broke the law, she did her homework. Oh, I can do this. It's not legal, but there's no penalty against me if I do it. How remarkable.
Right. I know, it's like that seems to be the Democrat mantra these days. I'm just going to do something, even though I probably realize it's illegal or unconstitutional. But until the court tells me I can't do it, I'm just going to do it. I mean, we had the president saying that and on down. And so that's the problem. Jocelyn Benson has lost 3 lawsuits in the last couple of years from the past election, one involving poll challengers, Steve, where they were putting all kinds of new restrictions. They weren't allowing poll challengers to talk to the election officials at the place that they were there to watch. I mean, stupid things like that, putting credential requirements in that were way beyond the law. So there's a lot of things that we're winning in court, and at least they can't do it prospectively going forward. But you see the problem. It's this attitude of, well, we'll just do it until the court tells us otherwise.
Right. And then there's no penalty and no accountability anyway. David Coleman, I have to leave it there. Senior Counsel, Great Lakes Justice Center. Always appreciate seeing you, David. Come back with an update, would you please?
We'll do that. Thank you, Steve.
All right, there you have it. Yeah, just because you vote for it or because the liberals vote for it doesn't mean it becomes the law of the land. Checks and balances exist no matter who passes the law. The legislature, executive order, a vote of the people. If it's not constitutional, it's not constitutional. We'll see what happens in that case. Got a special contest coming up for you. You want to win some free stuff for Christmas? I've got it for you after the break, all right?